Welcome to a busted play. An illegal use of hands to the face short.
Any and all primetime games will be attempted to be lost by the winning team this year. We watched Tampa, not all of them, I'm sorry, Thursday and Monday night games. We watched Tampa week 1, Thursday night, come in and really turn the ball over 4 times, try to give the game to Dallas. Monday night, we watched Zay Jones and, the Raiders score walk-off. But before that, they had the ball at the 1-inch line and, managed to move themselves back and then throw a pick and just all sorts of a mess. Tonight, we had the Washington football team have the ball up a little, 1 or 2 points, sorry. Just not really important. 1 or 2 points. Field goal makes the difference, right? And then they decide that they are going to, throw the ball when they had no reason to, especially considering it was still second down. Like, once it gets to third down, maybe. I mean, if you really want to get aggressive on second down, I'd like a veteran quarterback that, is like the face of the franchise or something. Huge Heineke supporter. Man, I have no idea what was going on there. But Washington won the football game in the end. So, I mean, geez, it all just, and there's so many more things to talk about. Your initial thoughts?
Oh, well, my initial thoughts are if NFL Network is going to be broadcasting games, 1, get your own graphics package. Don't be a leech. 2, get your own commentators. Don't be a leech. I don't want to listen to Troy Aikman and Joe Buck every Thursday night. The NFL Network has so many good people working for it. Get Steve Smith in the booth. It would be so much better. Like, I just don't get it, but I'm moving on from that. Let's actually talk about the game. J.D. McKissick runs with the ball like he's trying to get tackled every play. He doesn't try to avoid getting tackled. He doesn't try to run over the guy in front of him. He runs at the guy and with the intention of getting tackled as soon as he runs to the defender. And that killed the football team on a couple plays where it's like, yeah, JD, if you just take a slight angle here, you could pick up more yards. And he's like, no, I see the linebacker 1 yard away from the first down. I'm going to run at him so he can tackle me. That was like the main mental note that I had to get out first. I hate the way he runs, but the football team loves it because they used him more than Antonio Gibson today or tonight.
Leading with Washington football team slander is the best thing when they come out with the victory. The Giants jump offsides on the second to last play of the game to allow them to re-kick a field goal that is missed, and they also win the game off that. That's probably the biggest thing to note, and we skipped right over it. But man, I just did not see this game going this way. I did not think by the end of the game we would have this many points put on the board for Washington to come out with the victory. I thought for sure that at least the defense of Washington would be able to slow down the Giants' offense. Really, they didn't. And if the Giants didn't settle for so many field goals, this would have been an even higher scoring game, which is just wild to think about. But pass rush really disappointed from my perspective with Washington tonight. Even though they got to Daniel Jones, I think 4 times by the end of the game, it just felt that like there were so many snaps where it was like, man, for what they've got, they should really be getting a significantly, a lot more pressure on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I love the way the Giants' offensive line held up. Billy Price, for just being plugged in there a couple weeks ago in a trade from Detroit, holding up that well at center, and then losing your starting left guard, who you moved from center to left guard early in the game, and still playing that well against one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. That it was a great showing by the Giants' offensive line. I love that. Love Billy Price coming out of college and seeing him like have kind of a revival with the Giants there, at least in that one game. Love that.
Yeah. I kind of want to man, the quarterback play was something interesting tonight because we had basically want to give all praise to Heineke for almost all the game, minus the fact that the coach called a pass play that I hated the timing of, but then, it's also Heineke making the throw to get intercepted, so I also have to shift blame onto him. Daniel Jones has, some good stuff going on. Oh my gosh, the touchdown deep up the left sideline for him was an amazing throw, but man, there's other stuff that's just still what's really going on here? I don't know if I'm in love with that. And it's the quarterback play was interesting tonight because it was both of them were effective while still having a few like question mark things that kind of still go off for you.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke threw for over 300 yards, Daniel Jones over 250. Both of those guys could have thrown for way more yards in that game. It's just they played really well, but they still were inept at so many things. Taylor Heineke a little bit less than Daniel Jones, but both of them. I mean, Taylor Heineke had probably the worst play that game, that interception. Daniel Jones, I mean, if you really want to get picky, which I'm going to because that's what he was inept at. The little things that you need to be a franchise quarterback, and that's what everyone knocks him on. He could have put a little bit more air underneath that Darius Slayton touchdown. That wasn't a touchdown because it like he extended his arms all the way and it went off his fingertips. I mean, that ball has to be caught either way, but if you lead him a little bit more, easier ball to catch.
You don't need to lead him more. It's literally just you need to put
Just
just
yeah, put more
just
air on
put
it.
it up. No one's gonna be able to catch up to him in time to make that play. It's
Mhm.
not gonna happen.
Uh, Daniel Jones' processor needs so much work. There's so many plays where it's like, yep, you have a guy that 20-yard play here, and then you just keep looking. And Taylor Heineke did the same thing. It's like you have a touchdown. It was very early in the game. His slot receiver, the returner that was getting mad because he couldn't return the ball. I love that. Number one, I can't remember his name. Uh, he could have hit him for a touchdown, and he just ignored that and then threw it to Terry McLaurin, which I feel like that was the whole game plan. It was like, yeah, if your first read isn't open that isn't Terry, you throw it to Terry. If your first read is Terry, you're throwing it to Terry. And he wasn't looking anywhere else. Uh they both didn't really process well in the game. And Daniel Jones just cannot sense pressure to save his life. With how fast he is and athletic he could take off a lot more, but he just loves to sit in the pocket and just not feel anything around him, which I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback not feel pressure the way Daniel Jones doesn't feel pressure.
Well, I mean that's why you get the huge fumble issue with him, and it kind of makes sense. Um, I should mention before I forget, big game for Cameron Cheeseman. He gets his first game-winning snap of his career.
Love it. Love the rookie long snapper.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd throw that in there really quickly. I have to say, speaking in terms of like probably more positives than negatives, the guy that I would say really, if there was a guy that I was going to pick out, if the Giants had actually been able to win this game, which right at the end they were only one play away from being able to win this game, besides a jump off sides, or I mean, you could pick anything out with how close the game was. You could say one play
Hmm.
away. The reason they were able to keep a lot of drives going, which I don't really expect from them, honestly, just looking at their receiving core, who they've got there, and everything like that. Sterling Shepard,
Hmm.
absolutely insane on third downs, or like anytime they felt like they needed to pick up after having a few bad plays or anything like that. He would go to work, and it's just I man, he's just a guy that I forget about. He's just like he's the third guy there. I mean, I thought he could potentially get pushed down to the fourth guy, considering they drafted a receiver in the first round this year. Um,
Hmm.
that really still doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but you know, that's what they did, and he's just kind of a forgettable guy that you got to actually watch games, watch the Giants play to remember, hey, yeah, he's a significant part of their team, and what he does is really important for them.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard was a dog in the game. I mean, he might after his performance last week too against the Broncos. I mean, they didn't do much in that game, but he still had a heck of a game. Uh, he might be the number one receiver on that team. It seems like in a lot of the play call that Jason Garrett has drawn up for that team, it's like Kenny Galladay is just the decoy, and it's like, yeah, we have him isolated to one side of the field to like run a route and bring the safety over, and then we have Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard on the other side to actually get open, which is weird, uh, because you gave Kenny Galladay so much money to just use him that way.
No, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't think that's true. They targeted him a ton. They
No,
probably
they did.
targeted Sterling Shepard and Kenny Galladay the same amount, but Kenny Galladay didn't have the passes completed to him. He didn't create as much separation as Sterling Shepard did. You kind of got to use them a little bit differently based off the type of receivers they are. Sterling Shepard, really can work his routes really well. Kenny Galladay can work routes, not to the level of Sterling Shepard, but then he's got other parts of his game, like his size and his ability to go up and get the ball, that really I don't think Sterling Shepard can compare to, that they really could probably take a little bit more advantage of. And I thought they really would this season, considering they not only added him, but the other guy that I love in the red zone for that type of thing, Kyle Rudolph. It felt like they had both those two guys in mind this offseason. Like, hey, we also want some guys that can go up and get the ball. And even though they had a fairly good game on offense tonight, I still don't know if they're utilizing those guys as well as they could be. And yeah, that's kind of just where I'm sitting with that.
Yeah, and well, just staying in Kyle Rudolph, and then I'm gonna go to utilization for someone else too. It was really weird the way that they used him. I mean, not that they had many plays in the red zone, but it was like, yeah, just run a stick to the middle of the field and get rocked when Daniel Jones hits you with this. That just seemed like what the play call was for Kyle Rudolph. I'm like, I don't really like that, seeing how he's old, but I understand that's why you brought him in. It's like, yeah, Kyle, we're bringing you in to just get hit every time Daniel completes a pass to you. But utilization for another guy on that offense, Kadarius Toney. You spent a first-round pick on the guy, and you aren't even using him. And that was the one thing that you and I didn't like about that pick during the draft was to the Giants. The Giants are going to utilize him the way he needs to be utilized to be successful in an offense. And it just seems like he's going to be, and you said this before, I can't remember how long ago, a couple weeks ago, I think. Kadarius Toney's probably going to be considered a bust by the end of his 4 years or 5 years with the Giants.
Yeah.
Because they just don't use him right, and then he's going to go somewhere else and be good.
Well, no, I mean, I don't even want to guarantee that he'll be good going somewhere else, because getting yourself that far off track after 4 years, you have no idea how it's going to play out. But realistically, yes, I kind of do. I mean, especially after tonight, I do stick with that sentiment of just like, I don't know how this fits in this organization. I love him as a player, but it really doesn't make for the best thing. And the funny thing is, like, I don't even want to hate on Jason Garrett's play calling that much, because I really like a lot of it.
Yeah, it was good. It's just it feels like, and I'm probably gonna harp on this the whole season whenever I watch a Giants game. It just seems like they were so set on wanting to get Devontae Smith that when the Eagles leapfrogged him and took him, they just hit the panic button. It was like, well, we still need to get a receiver. It's like, yeah, let's just get this gadget guy that's supposed to go to a team like the Packers or the Bills or the Chiefs that are like West Coast exotic like offenses that know how to use them, and bring him into the Giants, where Jason Garrett is like, he's vanilla with what he calls, but it works. It's just I do Jason Garrett stayed away from that vanilla-ness in using Vanilla Vic and Daniel Jones with the options and the QB runs. Did like you got the fastest guy in the league on your team, so why don't you use him?
Yeah. I'm still really worried about Saquon Barkley. I was worried about him before the season, and after 2 games, I'm even more worried about him. I have to say, if I'm going up against the Giants as a defensive coordinator, I am 100% of the time saying, if there's any chance that this is a read option play, take the quarterback. Just think about that. I'm saying take Daniel Jones 100% of the time over worrying about Saquon Barkley. That's wild. I mean, it's crazy how perceptions can change, but just people underestimate Daniel Jones' ability to actually get out and run so often that it's strange, because of, kind of like you said, when he's not told to run himself, he really doesn't want to, and it's kind of weird. But with that being said, I guess we hit on the offense's receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, kind of. Another guy, switching back to Washington, that I was happy to see is getting he kind of had the same type of game Kenny Galladay had tonight, where he got a decent amount of targets, but he didn't really end up doing a lot. I'm still really happy to see De'Ami Brown getting a lot of those targets, though, because I think that means that they realize how much talent he really has. And, it's just funny thinking about the fact that Terry McLaurin was also that mid-round pick type of guy, and they may be able to have these guys like very close together in terms of years that they were drafted apart that could turn into those players, because I really do think he could turn into something very significant for this offense.
Yeah, and once Curtis Samuel steps back into, they got three guys that were like mid-round receivers that are they're top three and pretty good too. But De'Ami Brown filling in at that number two spot, I love it. He came down with some pretty tough grabs when he did get his opportunities. He got targeted a lot. It's just he was covered, and like there was good coverage by the Giants. I mean, that secondary was really good that game. But even when he was covered, like blanketed, he still went up and caught some tough balls over the middle of the field. Same thing with Terry McLaurin, which is weird because you don't expect guys that create the amount of separation that they do to make tough grabs in the middle of the field like that.
Diami's bigger though. Terry's even more
Yeah,
surprising because Terry doesn't have a lot of size to his game, and yet he still does make those catches across the middle, like you said.
Yeah. But I mean, the number one receiver for that team, Ricky Seals-Jones, probably the best catch of that game. I love that. I love seeing Ricky Seals-Jones because I never know what team he's on, and seeing him come down with a grab like that, I was like, what am I watching? Taylor Heineke just threw a touchdown pass to Ricky Seals-Jones, and that is the best catch of the season so far.
Yeah, it was, which was kind of wild. Um, where else can we go with this? I thought both secondaries actually played pretty well most of the game, even though all the offenses were able to move the ball, which was pretty interesting. They probably were playing a little too well at certain points because they got some flags called on them, and that may also have helped their play look pretty decent and also pushed it in the opposite direction of allowing more points to be on the board because there were so many first downs given up by secondary flags. At least that's what it felt like to me. I haven't looked back at the box score, but it sure felt like it. But yeah, and then I don't know the I guess the Giants defense, like, they played well, but they let up points. Like, I don't know how to feel about them specifically. Like, I don't like, since we mentioned Washington's defense already, I don't like how they played really, because like I feel like they underachieved for what they should be able to do, especially in terms of like the pass rush. Like I said, the Giants, I don't know how to feel because I feel like they played like solid team defense, but then you look at how many points they allowed, and it's like not great.
Yeah, it's really weird. Just comparing them that way because it's like, yeah, the football team and the Giants were kind of like on par with their defense. It's just you expect way more from the football team, but with the Giants too, it's like you guys could have won this game if the defense would have just played a smidge better. But I mean, Joe Judge, he doesn't run a tight ship around there and discipline his players at all. So seeing that undiscipline for all these false starts and offsides, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Especially the one that loses them the game on a special teams play, former special teams coordinator, and they jump off sides. That's tremendous.
Dexter Lawrence is lucky he's a former first round pick, or he'd probably be cut.
Yeah, and Dustin Hopkins is the name of the night to remember. But you were not kidding when maybe they should have tried it, because we talked about it the other day. I said I don't think the Giants will be able to keep up with Washington score wise, unless they're trying field goals from their own 40-yard line. But judging from what the range that Gano was able to hit from, and the fact that Gano didn't miss a kick tonight, maybe they should have been willing to try it from even further back.
Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? He's got one of the stronger legs in the NFL. It's just no one wants to unleash it. I don't know why. It's because he's old. But
that's NFC Special Teams Player of the Week type of performance. Honestly, I don't know who's going to outdo it, and yet I don't know if he'll get it because he was on a losing team.
That he lost to. It might be the guy that he lost to who's going to beat him out for it.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny to give it to that guy considering he missed the kick, but it didn't count. So
just completely erase that because Dexter Lawrence is really looking out for everyone.
So after this game, how do we view these teams differently?
I mean, I have a lot more respect for the Giants. But Should I see him? I was trying to think about this the whole game too. I was like, the Giants just got manhandled by the Broncos, and the football team is like staying close, or they're I should. The Giants are staying close with the football team. Like, so is the football team worse than what I thought they were, or the Giants way better than what I thought they were, and they just had a bad game week one? I, s- I still don't know. Like,
Well, let's think about this. Let's think about this. Just really dig deep into the rabbit hole here, okay? So the Giants just got slapped by the Broncos, right?
mhm.
And the football team just lost to the Chargers. But we just found out after tonight, this is basically, even though the final score wasn't a tie, this is basically as even as two teams can get, right? Because these teams go at it, and it comes down to the last play of the game, and one of them barely wins. And I mean, literally, there were two different last plays, and each of them would have won in one scenario or another. So, with that being said, that means that we can judge the Chargers and Broncos then off them, which means that the Broncos are going to be significantly better than the Chargers. This is just why you watch the NFL and continue to follow it, because
like this.
because in any like I don't see any universe where the Chargers and Broncos play this season and I say that the Broncos are significantly better than the Chargers, because from the games that we've had so far, that's the conclusion you should be able to come to.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say something like, and you see, if you look at this, the Broncos are gonna win the NFC East. I was like, yeah, okay, I can get behind that.
The Broncos are going to win the NFC East. That would be pretty difficult considering the Broncos are in the AFC West, but
I know, but if you really try some mental gymnastics here, Broncos don't really have ownership right now. Relocate, rearrange the league.
yeah, if I really wanted to, I could have made it that they would win. They would at least win the AFC West, but I didn't quite go for that one. Yeah, no. All those West teams, not a single team from the AFC West has lost a game yet. Or sorry, either conference, AFC West or NFC West. Just think about that for a second. I mean, we're only one game in, but that's pretty wild. I mean, the West Coast must be feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
Yeah, yeah, they should be. But NFC East, man, it might be more of a dogfight than what we thought it was at the start of the season. Eagles looked pretty good in that first game. Giants keeping it close with the football team, who are our division favorites. The Cowboys taking it all the way with the Buccaneers. This division might be a lot more fun. At least I'm trying to make it fun in my head. Because there's going to be so many primetime games for the NFC East we're going to have to
Well,
watch.
I still think it comes down to Washington and Dallas. I mean, we saw the statistic tonight. Daniel Jones has really played very well against the Washington football team. So, I mean, it may just be that he has their number specifically. And you could come back to the idea that, like, that is why Washington kept this game close. But Washington still pulled out the victory, and in the end, it's really just wins and losses that matter the most. We're not often looking ahead to tiebreakers at week 2 for anything. And I think it's very important that they got this win over a team that they usually compete with, no matter how good or bad either team is.
hmm I think the streak at the start of this game, Daniel Jones was going to break one of them. He's 4-0 against the football team, but he was also 0-5 in primetime games. So it's great that we get to watch Daniel Jones in primetime against the Buccaneers and the Chiefs later in this season as well. Just to keep that streak alive.
Maybe it won't be as much of a bloodbath as we expect it to be. I mean, I'm not picking. I'm definitely not saying the Giants are going to win those games, but maybe it won't be 40-3 like I was thinking it would be before the season even started.
Maybe Daniel Jones could break like the single game QB rushing yards record in one of those. That would be nice.
Like I said, though, after you watch the film, how do you come back to this and say, okay, yeah, still play Barkley when they run the option? Or do you just not, like, are coaches not, the coaches watch the film. They have to know that the Giants are willing to run the read option even though they don't have a quarterback that necessarily likes to run. I guess because he's making the choice to not run most of the time. So does he not like to
So
run?
they're forcing him to run by running the read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Like it's weird, but like these opposing coaches are watching film. So why is this big play consistently happening basically whenever anybody plays the Giants? Daniel Jones is going to rip off at least one big run because they just ignore him.
Because there might be a chance that Saquon also rips off a run that's half the amount of yards as that Daniel Jones run.
Yeah.
I don't get it all either. I agree with you. I would do the same thing of just only watch Daniel Jones if there's any type of play that resembles a read option that they would have. Just keep your eyes on Daniel Jones. Do not care about Saquon. I don't care if he gets 5, 6, 7 yards on this or a first down even, because Daniel Jones can take this to the house.
Yeah, because nobody else on the defense is going to be looking at him after you don't.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
the big part.
it's really weird. You got QBs that like to run, and you got to get him to sit in the pocket more. Daniel Jones can run, and he just refuses to. He's like, I there's never been anything like it. It's so weird.
Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, you can look a lot further back, like into the
Warren Moon,
70s or 80s or 90s, yeah, and then maybe
Warren
get
Moon
guys.
might be the last
but-
example of a guy that can run but refuse to.
Yeah,
but that was
any-
because they would make him change his position.
Yeah, no, like any modern day guy that can run and just chooses not to is like the weirdest thing in the world. And yeah, no, I mean, with that being said, Heineke has wheels, so why the heck are they not designing any QB runs with him? Like, I don't.
Because he put on like 20 more pounds. Buck says.
Yeah.
Must have slowed him down.
Yeah, I saw the workout videos of him prior to the game, and I was like, whoa, really? I'm like, he's a quarterback. Why is he working out as if he's like training to be a running back or something? I was like, okay, I guess they're doing this now. Heineke though, besides the one interception that I'm completely blaming on coaching, he couldn't have been much more efficient. He still looks like a very efficient player. Maybe not like as exciting as like the top guys in the league, but geez, I mean, for how little he's played, it is shocking how efficient he's able to be.
Yeah. Third career start, second one in the regular season. It was a great performance. Like I wouldn't have expected. I mean, I know it's Heineke, so I was expecting greatness out of him. But if you just like, this guy, it's his third career start. He's 27 years old. He's been in the league since 2015. He's bounced around all over the place. And you told me, he's gonna throw for over 300 yards. I'm like, no, he's not. What?
No.
And just great efficient game, but also the willingness to take risks is awesome. Like you wouldn't get played that Ricky Seals-Jones catch if Taylor Heineke wasn't there. I mean, Fitzpatrick would chuck that.
I was
up.
gonna say they have like one guy who they have like the only guy in the NFL on their roster that like is as like risk I don't know allowance like he's definitely willing to risk it. So I mean, it's very funny. But yes, I understand where you're coming from in saying that Taylor Heineke is able to be super efficient while also still giving receivers opportunity, which is a very hard balance to meet.
Yes, and I think with Fitzpatrick, you get a little bit less of that efficiency and more of the, I'm going to let my receivers make plays, which it'll be good when, Fitzy should be coming back the same time Curtis Samuel comes back. So you get another weapon in there, and then you can have him slinging if he gets the job back. Because if Heineke has this team rolling, I can see them just relegating Fitzy to the bench then.
And Heineke's a lot younger, and they got him on a 2-year deal, which means that if they can have a cheap quarterback next season as well, it may be a pretty attractive offer to them to say, hey, we don't think the quarterback play is that much different if you step back into the mold. We're going to keep rolling with Heineke. And if that's the case, it's just going to be interesting. I mean, we'll have to see when Fitz comes back and how many games they're able to win. But I have a feeling if they're able to beat their division rival tonight, who they've had a tough time against in the past, they'll be able to beat other teams that they're less familiar with, but also the opposing team is less familiar with. I think they've got the players to be able to pick up wins in those games as well.
Yeah, Fitzy might get shipped off if he gets back before week 8. Who knows?
I don't know. We always talk about quarterbacks getting shipped off, and it's always like, we're talking about 10 different quarterbacks that could get shipped by the trade deadline, but in reality, it's only going to be if it happens at all, it will be one of them. So I mean, I'm not too interested in that conversation, but I think
a great topic for a busted play.
yes, I was gonna say I think we hit this game basically perfectly. I feel like we really got through this pretty smoothly and still managed to hit on basically like every aspect of the game. So hopefully we covered that pretty well. You got anything else?
Riverboat Ron, earn your name. You can't be not going for it on 4th down in the red zone and then making a throw like that, allowing that play to be called.
Don't want to harp. Yeah, I don't want to harp on this too long. When you score a touchdown to give you a 5-point lead, don't you dare kick the field goal to make it a 6-point game. Or, the extra point to make it a 6-point game. Make it a 7-point game. I can't believe how consistently we see coaches do this.
Especially whose nickname is Riverboat Ron. I don't know why, because he's older, and I understand. And it's like he earned a nickname because it's like, oh, he goes for it on 4th down sometimes. That was like 8 years ago.
1 year. 1 year he went for it a lot. It's not like I really don't feel like he's that aggressive of a coach. I feel like he's a middle of the road guy, but 1 year he was really aggressive. So, yeah.
I just feel like if you're gonna have that nickname, you need to be with the times. And I can't see like good coaches being like 4th and 3, 2 in the red zone. You just kick the field goal here. Unless it's in the playoffs and your name's Sean McDermott or Matt LaFleur.
Okay. Well, I think we're good. You all set?
Yep. I think we can cut this here.